You didn't really need it anyway. That's what my father said, casually, his voice drifting through my phone speaker like we were discussing groceries or weekend plans, not the future I'd spent years building. No apology, no hesitation, not even a pause to see if I was still breathing on the other end of the line. Just entitlement, clean, effortless, and terrifyingly confident. I stood there in my small apartment, the walls too thin, the silence too loud, my phone pressed to my ear as the weight of his words settled in. My legs went weak. I leaned against the kitchen counter, staring at the chipped paint of a sink, trying to understand how a single sentence could undo years of sacrifice. Every late night, every scholarship application, every shift I worked while my friends slept. Gone. Not stolen by a stranger, not lost in a bad investment, but taken, deliberately, by the man who was supposed to protect me. You'll figure something out, he added, almost tearfully, as if resilience were a replacement for rent, tuition, and time. As if figuring it out hadn't already consumed my entire adult life. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I couldn't. My body had gone completely still, like it does right before something shatters. Because in that moment, I realized something far worse than the missing money. He hadn't done this in desperation. He hadn't done it by accident. He had done it because he believed he could. And even more chilling, he truly believed I would accept it, that I would swallow my anger, shoulder the consequences, and quietly fix what he had broken, like I always had. What he didn't know, what he couldn't see through his easy confidence, was that something inside me had shifted. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about control, about years of being underestimated, about a pattern I had ignored for too long. And standing there in that apartment, phone still warm in my hand, I made a decision that would change everything. I didn't tell him what I was about to do. I didn't warn him. I just listened as he kept talking, laughing even, completely unaware that he had just triggered the moment that would expose him to everyone he'd been hiding from. He thought the conversation was over. It wasn't. It was only the beginning. My name is Elena Brooks, and I was 24 years old when I learned the most painful lesson of my life, one that rewrote everything I thought I knew about loyalty, love, and family. Sometimes the deepest betrayals don't come from strangers. They don't come from enemies or rivals or people who hate you. They come from family, from the people who look you in the eye and smile, while assuming you'll forgive anything because you share the same blood. For years, I truly believed my father supported my dreams. I believed he was proud of my grades, my discipline, my determination to build a life better than the one I grew up in. He told everyone I was the smart one, the responsible one, the daughter who would make it. What I didn't realize, what I couldn't see back then, was that in his eyes, my success wasn't something to protect. It was something to use. To him, my future wasn't sacred. It was a safety net, a backup plan, an account he could reach into whenever his own choices caught up with him. I didn't realize I was just another resource to him, another solution to his problems, another bill he felt entitled to pay with my sacrifices. Until one day, the money was gone, and with it, the illusion of who my father really was. What happened next didn't just change my relationship with him. It changed the way I understood trust, independence, and what it truly means to grow up. Because the moment I asked him why, the answer he gave me shattered everything. The education fund was never a gift. It wasn't something handed to me out of generosity or obligation. It was something I built, slowly, painfully, dollar by dollar. Scholarships I earned by staying up late while everyone else slept. Late night shifts where my eyes burned from exhaustion and my smile felt glued on. Summer jobs that left my feet swollen, my hands aching, and my body too tired to dream. But I kept going anyway. Every paycheck went into that account. Every bonus. Every tax refund. I said no to vacations. No to new clothes. No to nights out. Because every dollar had a purpose.
Every dollar was a step closer to a future I was trying to claw my way into. The only reason my father's name was on the account was because I was 17 when I opened it. The bank required a cosigner. He smiled when he signed the papers. Told me he was proud. Told me, "I'll always have your back." I believed him. That trust, that blind, unquestioning trust children are taught to give their parents, became my biggest mistake. I didn't find out because he confessed. I didn't find out because he warned me. I found out by accident. It was a normal afternoon. I sat at my small desk, laptop open, coffee cooling beside me, logging into my bank account to pay my tuition balance. I expected to see a number that made me nervous, but manageable. Instead, I saw one word that didn't make sense. 0. I refreshed the page. Once. Twice. 3 times. Still 0. My chest tightened. My ears rang. I scrolled down. My hands suddenly numb. My heart pounding so hard it felt like it was trying to escape. Withdrawals. Transfer after transfer. Dates stretching back weeks. Not a mistake. Not fraud. A pattern. My hands started shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone when I called him. He answered on the second ring. "Hey," he said casually, like it was any other day. "Where's the money?" I asked. My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded small, fragile. There was a pause, then a sigh, long and irritated, like I had inconvenienced him. "I had some debts to clear," he said. "You'll manage. You always do." No apology, no explanation, no shame, just certainty. That was the moment something inside me went quiet. Not angry, not hysterical, just still. Because in that silence, I understood something terrifying. He didn't think he'd done anything wrong. And worse, he truly believed I wouldn't fight back. But what my father didn't realize was this. The same discipline it took to build that fund was the same discipline that would bring everything he'd hidden into the light. When I asked him why he didn't tell me, there was a pause on the line. Then he laughed. Not nervously, not apologetically. He laughed like I just said something mildly inconvenient. "Why are you making this dramatic?" he said. "It's just money. Just money. 4 years of early mornings, late nights, missed parties, meals skipped so I could save a little more." I told him that money was my education, my future, the reason I wouldn't be trapped. He scoffed. "You'll figure it out," he said. "You always do." As if resilience was a license to exploit me. As if my ability to survive meant he had the right to make things harder. Then he flipped the script. "You should be grateful," he added. "After everything I've done for you, I raised you. Grateful. For taking what wasn't his. For deciding, without asking, that my future was optional." I felt my throat tightened, but I stayed quiet. I'd learned early that reacting emotionally only gave him power. That's when he lowered his voice and said the line that changed everything. "Don't tell your mother. No need to cause problems. Not, let's fix this. Not, I'll pay it back. Just keep my secret." In that moment, the fog lifted. This wasn't panic. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't desperation. It was habit. A pattern of taking, hiding, and expecting forgiveness afterwards. And as I ended the call, one thought echoed louder than my fear. If he could do this once, how many times had he already done it before? And what else was he hiding? I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't threaten him with consequences he didn't
believe existed. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone still warm in my hand, heart pounding so loudly it felt like it might crack my ribs, and I made a decision. If he thought I was weak, I would let him keep believing that. Instead of reacting, I started documenting. I pulled bank statements going back years, every deposit I made, every scholarship refund, every quiet transfer he thought no one would notice. I saved screenshots of his messages, the ones where he called the withdrawals temporary, where he promised to sort it out later, where he brushed off my panic like it was an inconvenience. I backed everything up. Twice. Then I made calls. Not emotional ones, strategic ones. I spoke to the financial aid office at my university, explaining the situation without tears, just facts. I contacted a legal clinic that specialized in family financial disputes. I asked questions I never thought I'd need answers to. What rights do cosigners actually have? What counts as misuse? What options exist when family crosses legal lines? Every call taught me something new. While my father assumed I was spiraling, while he probably told himself I'd calm down, forgive him, move on like I always had, I was learning the system. And for the first time, I realized something chilling. He didn't take my money because he thought I'd be okay. He took it because he thought I'd never fight back. That's when my fear started turning into something else. Focus. Because survival wasn't enough anymore. I wanted accountability. Once the truth left my mouth, it didn't whisper. It exploded. I told my mother first, hesitant, careful, still hoping there had been some misunderstanding. I showed her the bank statements, the dates, the withdrawals, the empty balance where my future used to be. She went silent. Not shocked. Not confused. Just tired. That silence said more than words ever could. And then something unexpected happened. She started making calls. Within days, the story began to unravel, not just my story, but his. Turns out, I wasn't the first. An aunt admitted he'd borrowed money years ago to cover a short-term problem. A cousin remembered a college fund that suddenly disappeared. An elderly relative recalled signing papers she never fully understood. Different excuses. Same pattern. Money taken. Promises made. Accountability avoided. Piece by piece, the image he'd spent decades building collapsed. The charming man who always meant well. The devoted provider. The misunderstood victim of bad luck. None of it survived once the receipts spoke louder than his words. Family group chats went quiet. Phone calls grew tense. People started comparing notes, something no one had ever done before. And once they did, the truth became impossible to ignore. My father didn't apologize. Instead, he panicked. He accused me of turning everyone against him, claimed I was exaggerating, said I was ruining the family over a misunderstanding. But the more he talked, the worse it got. Because every excuse exposed another lie. Then came the legal pressure. Not dramatic courtrooms, not public scenes, just formal letters. Official language. Consequences written in black ink. Suddenly, his confidence disappeared. The man who told me I'd figure it out was now asking for time. For patience. For understanding. And for the first time in my life, I realized something powerful. He wasn't scared of losing money. He was scared of losing control. And he was already losing it. Because once accountability starts, it doesn't stop where you want it to. I finished my degree. Not because he helped me. Not because he suddenly felt guilty. And definitely not because he changed. I finished it because I refused to let his betrayal decide how my story ended. There were nights I thought about giving up, nights when exhaustion pressed heavier than fear, when the weight of doing everything alone felt unbearable. But every time I remembered his voice telling me I didn't need my education, something inside me hardened. I wasn't doing this in spite of him anymore. I was doing it without him. Graduation didn't feel loud or cinematic. There was no dramatic reconciliation, no proud father waiting with open arms. There was just me, standing still, holding a degree I earned with resilience, sacrifice, and a quiet kind of fury. And then my career started moving. One opportunity led to another. One small win turned into stability. Stability turned into independence. I paid my own bills, signed my own contracts, built a life that didn't require anyone's permission. That's when the messages started. Casual at first, carefully worded. So, what kind of work are you doing now?
Must be nice having a steady income. You always were ambitious. Ambitious. The same ambition he once dismissed as unnecessary, the same future he treated like spare change. Soon the questions became more pointed. How much does a role like that pay? Are you thinking of investing? Do you ever come home? And that's when I understood something that chilled me more than anger ever could. He didn't want me back. He wanted access. Access to my success. Access to my stability. Access to the life he tried to sabotage and failed. So I did the one thing he never expected. I gave him nothing. No details, no numbers, no explanations. Just silence. The kind of silence that doesn't beg. The kind that doesn't argue. The kind that tells someone without words that they no longer have power. And for the first time in my life, the balance shifted. Not because I confronted him, but because I outgrew him. Here's what I learned. Some parents don't want successful children. They want controllable ones. They mistake silence for weakness, patience for permission. But boundaries change everything. My father thought taking my money would keep me dependent. Instead, it set me free. I didn't destroy him. I didn't humiliate him. I simply stopped saving him from consequences. And that was enough. Because sometimes, the strongest revenge is building a life they no longer have access to.